The Benin Kingdom, a realm of grandeur and culture, stood as a beacon of African civilization. Amidst its ancient streets, thriving markets, and grand palaces, a tale of sacrifice, loyalty, and justice emerged, a tale of Emotan, a woman whose courage and wisdom would forever change the destiny of her people. This story unfolds in an age where betrayal lurked in shadowy corners and the fight for the throne determined the fate of the kingdom. Even in death, Emotan's spirit was said to watch over Benin Kingdom, a silent guardian of justice and courage. Her legacy inspired countless tales and served as a reminder that one person's courage could change the course of history. The market hummed with life as the sun cast its golden light over the ancient city of Benin. Women in brightly colored wrappers called out their wares: yam, plantain, beads, and spices, all spread out on woven mats or balanced in baskets. The aroma of fresh produce mingled with the earthy scent of red sand, a reminder of the kingdom's fertile land. Among the chaos, Emoten stood out, not because of her elaborate attire, but because of her commanding presence. She was a tall, dignified woman with skin that shone like polished mahogany, her head wrapped in a simple but elegant fabric. Her eyes carried the weight of wisdom, and her voice, firm yet kind, carried through the market square. Her stall was modest, filled with clay pots of herbs, medicinal roots, and carefully woven mats. But it was not her goods that drew people to her. It was her ability to listen, to mediate disputes, and to offer advice without judgment. Traders respected her, children adored her, and even palace officials acknowledged her integrity. One afternoon, a young mother approached her, cradling a feverish child. "Mama Emoten," she pleaded, "my child is sick, and I don't have enough to pay the medicine man." Emoten took the child into her arms, her experienced fingers gently feeling for signs of illness. She reached into her pots, carefully selecting herbs and roots. "This will help," she said, handing the woman a small pouch. "Boil it in water and make the child drink it. Do not worry about the payment." The woman's gratitude shone through her tearful eyes, but Emoten had already turned back to her stall, her attention drawn to another customer. It was this reputation for kindness and fairness that made her the trusted confidant of the market, and eventually a haven for the embattled Prince Ogun. The Benin Kingdom was under a dark cloud of political unrest. Prince Ogun, the rightful heir, was on the run, his life constantly threatened by spies loyal to his brother Oba Uwaifiokun. His allies had dwindled, and his enemies multiplied with each passing day. Desperation drove him to seek refuge where few would dare. Emoten sat cross-legged on the floor, grinding dried leaves in a clay mortar. The rhythmic thud echoed softly through the room, blending with the night symphony of crickets and distant drumming from a festival on the other side of the village. A sudden knock at the door startled her. It was firm but cautious, as if the visitor feared being overheard. Her heart raced. Who would come at this hour? "Who is it?" she asked, her voice steady despite her unease. "It is I, Prince Ogun," came the reply, barely above a whisper. Emoten froze. The exiled prince. Why would he seek her out? She quickly extinguished the lamp, plunged the room into darkness, and opened the door slightly. The prince stood there, his regal bearing unmistakable even in the dim moonlight. His once elaborate robes were replaced by a plain wrapper, dirt-streaked and torn. Behind him, a loyal servant held a leather bag, glancing nervously over his shoulder. "Your Highness," Emoten said, bowing her head slightly, "you should not be here. The Oba's spies are everywhere." "I have nowhere else to turn," the prince said, his voice weary but resolute. "They are hunting me, and my allies fear the Oba's wrath. But I have heard of your courage and wisdom, Emotan. Will you help me?" She hesitated, her thoughts swirling. The Oba's betrayal of his son was well known, but to harbor the prince was treason, a crime punishable by death. Yet she could not ignore the desperation in his voice or the righteousness of his cause. "Come in," she said finally, stepping aside. The prince and his servant entered, their movements cautious. Emoten lit the lamp again, revealing Ogun's gaunt face and the exhaustion etched into his features. He looked nothing like the vibrant prince who had once commanded armies and inspired songs in the kingdom. "You may rest here for the night," she said, her voice firm, "but we must be cautious. My neighbors are loyal to the Oba, and one word of your presence could mean the end for all of us." Ogun nodded. "I will not put you in danger longer than necessary. Tomorrow I will leave to find allies outside the kingdom. As the prince settled on the mat, Emotan's mind raced. She would need to gather information discreetly and find a way to support the prince's cause without drawing attention to herself. She had always been a mother, a trader, and a healer. Now, it seemed, she was being called to be something more, a protector of justice in a kingdom that had lost its way. Over the next weeks, Emotan became his protector. She devised clever ways to communicate, using patterns of dried herbs or coded phrases to warn him of impending danger. She encouraged him to stay hidden during the day and move under the cover of night. "You must be patient," she told him one evening. "The time to reclaim what is yours will come, but only if you are alive to seize it." The marketplace became more than a trading hub. It was now a center of quiet resistance. Emotan, leveraging her influence among the market women, began sowing seeds of discontent against the oppressive rule of Oba wife Yokun. She spoke in hushed tones, planting the idea that the kingdom needed a just and capable leader. Her network of allies grew. Market women smuggled food and supplies to Ogun's loyalists. Messages were passed through subtle signals. A string of beads hung a certain way, or a specific arrangement of calabashes at her stall. Emotan spread her mat beneath a sturdy palm tree at her usual spot in the market. Her wares, dried herbs and medicinal concoctions, were arranged neatly, their colors vivid against the earthen mat. The marketplace was her domain, a place where she was both respected and trusted. However, this morning she felt uneasy. The prince's visit the previous night lingered in her mind like a shadow. A familiar face appeared in the crowd. It was Obo, a fisherman known for his sharp tongue and love of gossip. He stopped in front of her mat, his eyes darting left and right. "Emotan, did you hear?" he whispered, leaning closer. "The Oba's men are searching everywhere for Prince Ogun. They say he has allies in the city." Emotan kept her expression neutral, her hands busy arranging her goods. "Allies?" she said, feigning disinterest. "What allies would dare oppose the Oba?" Obo shrugged, his voice dropping further. "People talk. They say the prince is gathering support from traders and warriors loyal to his late mother's lineage. They say he's still in the city." Emotan's heart pounded, but she nodded calmly. "Rumors are like dry leaves, Obo, easily scattered by the wind. You should focus on your fishing." Obo chuckled, straightening up. "True enough, Emotan, but remember, the Oba's ears are everywhere. Be careful whom you trust." As he walked away, Emotan's gaze swept the market. She spotted two men lingering near a fabric stall, their eyes scanning the crowd. Their leather tunics and sharp knives tucked into their belts marked them as the Oba's spies. A cold knot formed in her stomach. She knew she had to act quickly. Rising to her feet, she approached her neighbor, Iyese, an elderly woman who sold woven baskets. "Ayese, will you watch my stall for a moment?" Emotan asked. The old woman nodded, her wrinkled face warm with familiarity. "Of course, child. Go on." Emotan weaved through the market, her steps purposeful but unhurried. She approached a young boy, one of the orphans she often helped. He was perched on a wooden crate, nibbling on roasted corn. "Egosa," she said softly, crouching to his level. "I need you to deliver a message." The boy's eyes lit up. "For you, Auntie Emotan, anything." She handed him a small bag of cowries. "Go to the edge of the city where the forest begins. Find the man with a red cloth tied to his staff. Tell him the hunters are close. Then leave quickly. Do you understand?" Gosa nodded and darted off without another word. Emotan straightened, her eyes scanning the market again. The spies were gone, but she knew they would return. She had bought Ogun a little time, but it wasn't enough. Prince Ogun stood beneath a towering iroko tree, his servant beside him. They had been waiting for hours, their patience stretched thin. Just as Ogun considered retreating deeper into the forest, the bushes rustled. Emotan emerged, carrying a basket filled with what appeared to be vegetables. She placed it at Ogun's feet and knelt briefly in greeting. "Your Highness," she said, her voice steady. "The Oba's spies are everywhere. You must leave the city tonight." Ogun knelt beside the basket, lifting its lid. Beneath the vegetables lay a small bundle wrapped in cloth. When he unwrapped it, he found a map, a pouch of cowries, and a dagger. "This will guide you to Ekenwan, where you'll find allies loyal to your cause," Emotan said. "The map marks a path through the forest to avoid the main roads." Ogun looked at her, his expression filled with gratitude and determination. Why do you risk so much for me, Emotan? She met his gaze. Because you are the rightful heir, and the people of Benin deserve a ruler who will protect them, not exploit them. This kingdom has suffered long enough. The prince nodded solemnly. I will not forget this, Emotan. When I reclaim the throne, I will honor your bravery. Emotan shook her head. Do not honor me, your highness. Honor the people who stand behind you, even when they cannot stand beside you. Prince Ogun and his loyal servant made their way through the dense forest, the sounds of nocturnal animals their only company. The faint glow of a lantern ahead signaled their meeting point. They approached cautiously, their footsteps muffled by the damp ground. A tall man emerged from the shadows, his spear glinting in the lantern light. His face, scarred and weathered, bore the stern expression of a warrior. I am Odeon, the man said, his voice low but commanding. Emotan sent word. You must be Ogun. I am, the prince replied, stepping forward. Are we safe here? Odeon nodded. For now, the forest is vast and the Oba's men fear its spirits. Follow me. The group moved quickly, guided by Odeon's lantern and intimate knowledge of the terrain. Behind them, the faint sound of drums echoed from the city, a signal that the search for Ogun had intensified. Inside one of the huts, Ogun sat cross-legged on a mat, Odeon beside him. A map of the city lay between them, its edges frayed. The Oba's forces are strongest around the palace, Odeon explained, pointing to key locations. But his reach extends to the markets and main roads. Emotan's network has been vital in identifying where his support is weakest. Ogun nodded, his jaw tight with determination. We cannot wait much longer. If the people believe I am defeated, they will lose hope. Odeon leaned back, his gaze steady. Hope is not easily lost when it is rooted in truth. The people believe in you because they remember the just rule of your mother. We will strike when the time is right. As Ogun prepared to rally his forces for a final bid to reclaim the throne, Emotan's support became even more critical. She coordinated the flow of supplies, bolstered morale, and ensured that her market allies remained steadfast. The victory of Prince Ogun was still uncertain. The streets of Benin City were tense, filled with whispers of rebellion and the ever-watchful eyes of Oba Uwaifiokun's loyal guards. Emotan, now a central figure in Ogun's resistance, turned the market into a hub of coded communication. The market women, ordinary traders, became silent warriors in the battle for justice. Their goods were no longer just for sale. They were tools of rebellion. Yam baskets concealed hidden messages, while calabashes carried more than water. They transported news of Ogun's plans. One day, a palace official, suspicious of Emotan's activities, approached her stall. He was a tall, imposing man dressed in rich red wrappers adorned with beads, his presence commanding immediate attention. Woman, you've been meeting with strangers, he accused. The Oba's ears reach far and wide. Emotan, unflinching, offered a warm smile. I meet with many, my lord. The market is where leaves intersect. Perhaps you might find what you need here. The official's eyes roamed over her stall, lingering on the baskets of herbs. Emotan's heart pounded, but she remained composed. She knew a single slip could endanger not only her life, but also the rebellion. Be careful, woman, the man warned before walking away. As soon as he was out of sight, Emotan subtly adjusted the position of a pot on her stall, a prearranged signal to her allies that danger was near. The market continued as though nothing had happened, but the resistance network tightened its vigilance. The night Prince Ogun returned to Benin City was one of heightened anticipation. Hidden within the shadows of the city, his loyalists prepared for a final confrontation with the tyrant Oba. Emotan's home became a temporary command center, her quiet resolve inspiring those around her. The night was heavy with silence, yet the air thrummed with unspoken tension. Prince Ogun had returned to Benin City, but this time it was not as the exiled heir, but as a determined warrior ready to reclaim his throne. The streets of the city, usually alive with the sound of traders and villagers, lay cloaked in an eerie stillness. Emotan's humble dwelling became the nerve center of the rebellion. By the dim light of an oil lamp, Ogun and his loyal commanders huddled around a makeshift map of the city, marking the strongholds of Oba Uwaifiokun's guards. Emotan moved quietly in the background, her hands steady as she prepared a meal for the prince and his men. You've taken a great risk returning here, my prince, Emotan said as she placed a steaming bowl of pepper soup in front of him. Her voice was calm, but her eyes betrayed her concern. I had no choice, Ogun replied, his voice low but resolute. This kingdom is bleeding, and it is my duty to heal it. Your courage has given me the strength to return. Emotan nodded, her heart swelling with pride. She had watched Ogun grow from a young prince into a man worthy of the throne. Now her faith in him would be tested as the city braced for the inevitable clash. As the night deepened, Emotan's market network came alive. Women who had spent their days selling wares now moved like shadows through the city, delivering messages and supplies to Ogun's forces. Every coded phrase, every silent gesture was a thread in the intricate web of rebellion that Emotan had woven. At the break of dawn, Ogun's forces struck. The sound of battle drums echoed through the city, shattering the silence. Emotan stood at her stall, her heart pounding as she listened to the distant clamor of swords and shields. She prayed silently, her hands gripping the edge of the stall as she willed Ogun to succeed. The battle was fierce and brutal, but Ogun's forces, fueled by a righteous cause, prevailed. By midday, the gates of the palace fell, and the tyrant Oba Uwaifyokun was overthrown. The city erupted in celebration, the air filled with the sound of drumming and chanting as the people welcomed their new ruler, Oba Iware the Great, meaning the heat has abated or the trouble has ceased. In the midst of the jubilation, Emotan remained at her stall, quietly absorbing the magnitude of what had been achieved. She had no desire for recognition or reward. The restoration of justice was enough for her. But Ogun had not forgotten her. On the third day after his coronation, royal guards arrived at Emotan's home. Dressed in ceremonial attire, they escorted her to the palace, where Ogun waited to greet her. "Emotan," Ogun said, his voice filled with emotion, "you have been the backbone of this rebellion. Without your courage and wisdom, this day might never have come. The kingdom owes you a debt it can never repay." Emotan, overcome with emotion, bowed her head. "I only did what the gods willed, my Oba. The kingdom's peace is my greatest reward." Emotan passed away shortly after Uware's ascension to the throne as Oba. Her death marked the end of a remarkable life, but Oba Iware the Great ensured that her contributions would never be forgotten. To honor her memory and cement her legacy, he decreed her deification. A shrine was built at the very spot where she had lived near the marketplace, and a sacred Uhur Trilawulu was planted by her grave. This act of reverence ensured that Emotan's name would endure for generations as a symbol of courage, loyalty, and resilience. The shrine, though modest in design, radiated elegance and sacredness. Oba Iwer decreed that all title holders in the kingdom must pay homage at her shrine before their investiture. Similarly, every funeral procession had to pass by her grave to honor her spirit. Over time, the shrine became a revered site for traders, villagers, and travelers seeking guidance and blessings. The story of Emotan, her bravery, her loyalty to the kingdom, and her role in the restoration of justice was woven into the cultural and spiritual fabric of the Benin Kingdom. Market women, who had worked closely with Emotan during her lifetime, became the custodians of her legacy. They upheld her principles of fairness and community, ensuring that her values lived on. These women passed down her story to their daughters, embedding lessons of courage, selflessness, and integrity into the hearts of future generations. The sacred Uhura tree, planted as a living testament to Emotan, thrived for more than 3 centuries, standing as a silent guardian over her grave. During the reign of Oba Osemwenda, the tree died, but the Oba replaced it with another Uhure tree, supporting it with an Iroko tree to ensure its longevity. These trees stood for many years, becoming symbols of endurance and continuity. However, during a violent storm 50 years later, both trees fell, leaving a void in the sacred space. In 1954, during the reign of Oba Akanzua II, the British Council in Benin City erected a bronze statue of Emotan in place of the fallen trees. The statue, depicting a full-sized woman, captured the essence of her bravery and strength. It became the new centerpiece of the shrine, a tangible reminder of her enduring legacy. As Benin City modernized, the shrine and the bronze statue remained cherished landmarks. They stood as silent witnesses to the city's transformation, their presence a bridge between the past and the present. Traders and visitors alike paid homage at the shrine, leaving offerings and saying prayers, drawn by the spirit of the woman who had risked everything to protect her people. Hello, beautiful people. A huge thank you for your support and for engaging with my stories. Your likes, shares, and thoughtful comments mean the world to me and keep this channel thriving. Please continue to like, share, and leave your amazing comments below. Most importantly, don't forget to subscribe to my channel to help me bring you more captivating and inspiring stories. Thank you so much. Hi, beautiful people. Thank you for watching Folktales by Promise. Please remember to like, share, and leave a comment below to encourage me. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button to stay updated with more exciting stories.